Good morning, Majella. Really good afternoon to you.
It
Thank you
is.
so much for being willing to sit down with me again.
I'm sitting here very comfortably, and yeah, it's definitely afternoon here. Definitely. Although morning for you, obviously. Isn't that wonderful? Would you like to know some of the future? I could tell you.
I would love to know some of the future.
Well, I will get you the lottery results as soon as they're in and send them to you.
So I thought that for this week, with our sit down with me practice, which we're at week 3, can you believe it already? That
Mhm.
we just start sharing with our audience about our personal um, reaction, response, experience of coronavirus now officially being called a pandemic. How's that sound to you?
It sounds good. Would
Great.
you do you want to start?
I certainly will. Um, I was very, very blessed to be able to make a trip to Trinidad and not get quarantined going or coming. And I had a fabulous time. I was only there basically for about 4 days, but it was so wonderful. I was with loving people. It was very creative. And so the day before I come back is when um, Corona gets labeled as a pandemic. And so it was interesting that the people were acting pretty sane. There wasn't anybody panicking or being crazy. The stewardesses, the hostess on the airplane were wonderful. They weren't afraid of people. The pilots were great. So it was just really a very wonderful experience. When I got back home and I went to the store, I went to get my regular stuff at Trader Joe's, I did confront empty shelves. And so I took that into, okay, here's an opportunity to adapt. And so I was able to buy some foods that I normally wouldn't get, but some new things. So I turned it into an opportunity for something new. I think that for me personally, I am seeing this opportunity of everybody in the world having to take a break as something good. Even though, of course, there are going to be people suffering, it is definitely a time wrought with a lot of tension and grief. But I see it as an opportunity, and so I've told myself, you know, you can just write. You can just really focus on your writing. You can really focus on making your videos. You've got this time. And so to really just allow myself to do that and to not get caught up in any of the fear stuff. So that's where I'm at with it
Mm.
right now. How about you?
Well, it's been very interesting in London and the UK. Um, I suppose first and foremost is I spend a lot of time on my own anyway.
Yeah.
So this is not something it's not really a massive problem, but it's interesting because suddenly I'm like, oh, but maybe I want to go out and eat. um, but which you can at the moment, but it's well, the announcement's just been made today that they're suggesting restricting going to social places much more broadly. Um, and a lot of my work requires me to, the way I get work is to be in spaces with new people. Issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, obviously, I work with people therapeutically and in coaching. So often we're in the same space. Having said that, I've worked for a long time with people online. So it's very easy for me to facilitate and work with people online too. So I'm grateful that I've been doing that for a long time anyway. Um, and the things again, empty shelves, ridiculous behaviors going on. Very bizarre. I don't get the toilet roll thing. What do people, did people not know you can wash, with other things, and maybe use a bidet or a shower or something? So I'm just not getting it, because I'm not aware that you get any diarrhea with coronavirus, as far as I'm aware. Anyway, it's just really interesting the way that people grab hold of things as symbolic savior items, anchors in the world. So instead of buying lots of toilet rolls, I got 3 big 50-litre bags of compost and some fertilizer. So it's in my back garden now. So if I have to not leave my house, I can still propagate all my seeds for my vegetable garden and still make things. So for me, it's been like, oh, okay, well, I'm still doing the things that I would do anyway, apart from spending time with new people.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I think, we're saying the same thing about finding that something that you can focus on and just really, keeping yourself stress-free as much as possible and seeing this as an opportunity. I think it's really interesting and so synchronistic that this kind of global pause is happening as we're going through this 40-day sit down with me practice. Yeah. It's like you can't make this stuff up. So, yeah,
definitely.
I'm grateful. I'm very
And
grateful.
that whole, when you talk about pause, the way I see this is now it's no longer just the poor and the vulnerable that are vulnerable.
Yes.
And this is a great leveler. It's a great leveler, because suddenly businesses, banks, airlines, massive corporations are being brought to their knees.
Yeah.
And it's really a time for what do we really need? Like, let's it'd be interesting to see what the impact on pollution is.
Yeah.
Having everyone pause. There's going to be and otherwise health, if you manage not to contract the virus, or if you do get it and you're one of the people who are well and don't have any underlying health conditions and can access appropriate healthcare, so you come through it, what is the outcome for that? How does that change people and what we think and do?
Yeah. Well, it definitely is going to be creating, these changes that have been kind of prophesized and talked about for years. And, me and my astrology, it's definitely connected to the Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter conjunction that is going on big time in Capricorn. So it's really interesting. Yeah. So let's take a short pause here, and then we'll come back and share about our experience of this 40 days sit down with me practice. Hello, Majella. How are you again?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am feeling fabulous and so grateful. As we now move into our sharing about our 40-day sit down with me practice, would you open up this expression of our experience in a somatic way?
I certainly will. Okay. So what I'll do is at the end, I shall ring a bell. Can you hear that?
I can.
Excellent. Okay.
Perfect.
So if you get yourself into a comfortable position with your feet firmly placed on the floor, So dignified posture, but not too stiff and not too slouchy. And when you feel ready, you close your eyes and just bring your attention to your breath. Don't try to change your breath, just noticing how when you inhale, your chest rises, and when you exhale, your chest falls. And just noticing any sensations of comfort or discomfort in your body by scanning from your feet up through your calves and shins, through your knees, thighs, buttocks, lower abdomen, solar plexus, chest and upper back, your fingers and hands, wrists and forearms, elbows, upper arms, shoulders, neck, face, across your scalp, and just noticing without trying to change anything, and bringing your attention back to your breath. And if your mind wanders, just allow your thoughts to pass you by like passing cars and draw your attention back to your breath.
Wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, Majella, would you begin this week and share what is going on for you with the Sit Down With Me practice?
So I'm continuing to run 3 times a week, which I found really helpful and focusing in my practice. And I'm still continuing to practice gratitude. And it's been interesting to notice how the impacts of quite volatile and unpredictable situations can impact on your well-being, and how it's important to find the anchors in your world internally, and maintaining that kind of centeredness around things. I mean, when I was a child here, we used to have I don't know whether you had them in the States, but Weebles, these dolls that had,
Weebles wobble, but they don't
fall down. Yeah, so it's that. So it's Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. And it's kind of like, the reason they don't fall down is because they're grounded in the middle, the center, the weight is in the middle. And it's not external to them. They're not hooked onto things to hold them up. They can wobble and they can roll and they can literally quite violently move around like a Bobo doll. And so it's that kind of notion of going, wow, where's our psychological flexibility? How do we strengthen the muscles that are necessary to navigate the interesting times that we're living in? So lots of meditation, listening to great music, focusing on growing and growth things rather than deficit models.
Wow, perfect. Thank you so much for that. For me, it's been quite interesting because I got to take a journey out of the country to Trinidad, which is very close to Venezuela if people don't know geography like I don't. So it was a very long trip, and it was a place that wasn't really on my bucket list, not a place that I would have said, oh, yeah, I want to go to Trinidad. And so there was a lot of unknown in that for me. And it, of course, brought up some fears of the unknown, which would have been a wonderful time for me to be biting my fingers, right? But I'm doing this practice. I can't bite my fingers, right? I'm even now more conscious about picking at dry skin on my cuticles and have been, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Use your clipper, And so it was really interesting to, again, fall into, right, this unknown experience. And then you add the coronavirus threat on top of that in terms of being on not one, but two airplanes for extended hours, right? And so I really just opened up and gave myself over to it. I stepped into my faith and I stepped into trust. And the outcome was having just one of the most beautiful, beautiful times. I was around these most loving women, two very highly creative and powerful women that really just inspired me and incited my creativity. So I was able to really do my writing and frame out what I need to complete in just such a loving way. The person who owned the Airbnb we stayed in was just an amazing human being. The food, the people of Trinidad were just so wonderful, loving. It was just a great, great time. So from that, I learned how, letting go of this behavior to stop feeling the pain, but allowing it to rise to the surface and release gave way to me being open for this incredible experience. And I also ate things that I usually avoid, in terms of sugar and salt. And I ate some things and high carbs, and I ate them and I didn't have a problem. It was just all good. So I feel so blessed from that experience. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty mega to not have the usual kind of negative impact from eating things and consuming things. It makes me wonder about how much of these things are psychological, environmental. And so depending on where you are in the world, you could consume different things because your biological makeup shifts in order to adapt to the climate that you're in.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it was amazing. Absolutely. I think I'm walking away with that from this with a confidence in myself. And that's just a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So with these final 40 seconds, I'm going to just share a quick prayer to close out for this week. Of course, we'll be back next week. But I'd just like to say, Creator, Mother, Father, God, Source, all the one, all that is, thank you for the blessings that you have bestowed upon us and this opportunity to know that we can heal and grow and transform in unbelievable ways. Amen. Ashe, I hope. And so it is.
Ashe.
I'll see you next week.